Well, hello, Colorado, and welcome to another edition of the Rearden Strategic Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about some of the current events facing our great state of Colorado, including the protests, the failing COVID response, as well as some of our local political news. So, my name is Brandon Wark, and I'm here with Joe Neville. How you doing, Joe?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Remembering Barry Goldwater today, because this socialist agenda that's being shoved down our throats in Colorado and across the country needs to stop. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to talking more about it today.
Awesome. And we have a special guest with us, one of our favorite political operatives operating up in Weld County here, Mr. Seth Walters. How you doing, Seth?
I'm doing great, Brandon, and I couldn't agree with Joe anymore. Missed the Barry Goldwater days.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff is happening these days, as you all know. It seems one thing after another. We don't have time to breathe with the way the news is pushing all this stuff towards us, and we see the Democrats in the state legislature taking advantage of all the chaos and confusion to enforce their ridiculous legislation. So I think we should start talking about the most important issue facing Coloradans right now that's going on at the state legislature, and that is this horrendous, absolutely authoritarian and tyrannical vaccination bill. It is forced vaccinations being forced on our children, basically. The whole point is to make it harder for our children to opt out of these dangerous and unproven and untested drugs, basically. Joe, what do you think about this?
Anybody that knows my family, we've been accused for years of being, the Neville Nutters when it comes to vaccines and the anti-vaxxers or whatever they want to call us. And it's funny, I was actually talking to a mutual friend of ours today, and he's not anti-vaccine, but he is for healthcare freedom. And that's what this is. Like, you don't want to go get your kids vaccinated? That's on you. You want to do it? That's on you. Great. Go get your kid vaccinated. They should be safe then. There should be no threat. But as for me, I don't like the idea of dumping dozens and dozens and dozens of vaccines into my child, any of my kids, when they haven't been truly tested over time and they've got chemicals and everything else in them. But that's not the point. The point is it's a freedom issue of whether or not you should be able to actually vaccinate or not. As a parent, it's my choice. Not the government, not some king or dictator like Jared Polis. They should not be allowed to tell me whether or not I put anything in my kids. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be blunt right here today and say, you put a needle near my kid without my permission, you're going to see just how much I care about the Second Amendment, because I will put lead in you, period. I'm not kidding.
But Joe, it's for the kids. It's to protect us from the dangerous COVID virus. What are you talking about, man?
The COVID virus, right. Yeah, the COVID virus that's killed less than 1% of the population. And I'm not even going to get into that. The fact of the matter is it comes down to freedom. We're not saying you can't get your kids vaccinated. Go get your kid vaccinated if you want to get them vaccinated. Go get yourself vaccinated if you want to get them vaccinated. As for me, it's my choice whether or not I want to vaccinate my kids. That's the real issue. But don't you dare try to put a needle near my kid without my permission.
Wait a second. Period. Hold on. Are we talking about personal responsibility?
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Where people are personally responsible for themselves and their children?
Right.
This is insane. That's a crazy novel concept. I don't know where any American would have learned that.
Yeah, exactly.
You hit the nail on the head, Joe. It's definitely about healthcare freedom. That's the fundamental issue there. It's you own your own body, you own your own life, you get to decide what goes into it. And when you have children, you're the steward of those children. You have the sacred responsibility to raise them in the best way possible. And to inject them with drugs forced on them by a ridiculous, out of control government is a recipe for disaster. There's a reason Colorado has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the country. And I think the Democrats are really going to be, they're going to face a really tough reality when the voters, all the independent voters and Democrats who are going to oppose them coming up over this forced vaccination bill. Actually, the picture right behind me is from Sunday's protest outside of the Capitol. I was there for the protest against the stay-at-home orders. We've seen the protests with the police brutality issue. But these protests, all these vaccine moms or women who've experienced autism of their children due to these vaccines. Yeah. It's incredible to see this outpouring of protesters.
My aunt, right now. My cousin, he has autism. Randy, he's extremely smart. He's a bright kid. He's an adult now, But I mean, we've seen it firsthand in our family. And it comes down to this. My aunt, who's seen her child harmed by vaccinations, he's actually been harmed by the vaccines. We believe that 100%. I don't care what anybody says. That's what we believe. At the end of the day, we still don't want to take your choice away of whether or not you want to get the vaccines, but we should have the choice not to vaccinate if we don't want to. That's just freedom. That's liberty. That's our Constitution. That's healthcare freedom. But you know what? They're pushing this really hard, and Representative Mollica, which is funny, because the three of us, I remember when this happened, when Steve Lebsock was being ousted out of the legislature, and people said it was because of the sexual harassment stuff. And I remember sitting there saying, no, it's because he's a little bit too conservative for Democrat taste. And they ousted him out of the legislature, and they replaced him with Representative Mollica, who's become a complete tyrant, a complete socialist on all levels. And he's a nurse. And as a nurse, he has this agenda to make sure that we're going to have to pump vaccines into every kid across the country. I'm just not into it. So this is one of the most egregious bills, in my opinion, that I've seen in the 15 years I've worked in Colorado politics.
Well, guys, let's cycle back to just last year, right? They tried to create a forced vaccination bill just last year, and Colorado, not even objectively, Colorado 100% opposed this, to the point where the Democrats were so scared they literally just let it die in committee. They were so scared to make this happen. So what's changed? Like, do you think the majority of Colorado somehow had some sort of weird awakening? They're like, oh, the government knows better than me how to raise my kid? That's a bunch of crap. I'm sorry. That's just crap.
It is.
I know how to raise my kid. My kid has a substantial amount of born defects, and I have refused to give him a lot of the vaccines that they claim are good, just because I know they're not, and they're going to be more harmful to the development of my child with some defects than if I would have gotten them. Like, this is just stupid. Like, I know what's best for my kid. What parent in the world doesn't take 25 minutes to objectively look at their kid when they're in the womb and decide what's best for them? Right. And then when they see them born with whatever sort of defects might happen or not, maybe they're lucky and they don't have some sort of issue that goes on with their kid. But what parent, in the good parent, mind you, is not going to objectively say and do some research to say, I know what's best for my kid?
Right.
No, you're absolutely right, Seth. And I mean, what gets me, I mean, the thing that really bothers me with this debate, other than the fact that they're trying to force something on us, which I'm always against the government trying to force anything, is the fact that they question our parenting. That they question parents and the intent of parents. And I mean, the three of us, I mean, we all got together this last week, and our kids were there, and Seth, and we saw your kid for the first time since the lockdown, and they said we couldn't hang out together, but now we all got to hang out together. And you and your wife, you know what's best for your kid. You guys obviously are taking care of that baby. And I'm looking at my kids, and I would do anything to protect my kids. I don't know, the majority of parents I know, the people I know, in my circles, that's the truth. That's the case. They're not going to let anybody hurt their kids. Yeah. And they're going to do everything to protect them. So how dare the government or these representatives or legislatures step in and say, you don't know how to parent, that you don't know what's best for your kid. You live with them every day, but you don't know what's best for them.